Are we live? I think we are.
Okay, so let's start.
Right, we are live now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
namaste everybody. Let's begin.
Yeah. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste, namaste, namaste Mahabanoo ji, namaste Nishan ji.
Namaste, Jerry G. How does that
Yes.
sound?
Namaste. As long as I'm not calling anybody auntie.
Oh, I walked out.
Right.
Yes, well.
Okay.
And to your uncle. So,
Okay, so good evening everybody, and I'm going to stay on off video now and on mute and watch the proceedings.
Yeah. So namaste, everyone, and welcome to our first conversations, live talks with Mahabanoo Mody Kotwal. And these conversations are going to be, we're launching today, and these talk series are conversations that are going to be crucial, candid, and the intent is to create value for issues, socio-political issues that are very, very relevant in this times and all times. We are also starting these inspirational series that we are going to be doing thrice a week. I'm just going to take this little opportunity to tell you about it. On Mondays, we are going to have our Rex Karamvi Global Fellowship, which is our flagship fellowship and awards that we have been doing for close to 2 decades now. And we're going to get our inspiration that is strewn all over the world, and we're going to get these fellows over with us to have conversations, have candid conversations, have talks to inspire us more and learn about them and gather all the work that they have been crusading for these times to come. So we are going to call them Inspire Experience on Mondays. On Tuesdays, sorry, on Wednesdays, we're going to have conversations with our youth. We launched our youth fellowship, Rex Karamveer Youth Fellowship in 2019 in October at IIT Delhi. So we shall be getting those youth fellows over, and Nishad will be hosting that show, and we will be calling that Youth Experience. And on Fridays, we shall be bringing on our educators fraternity, because we launched Education Change Champion Fellowship, Rex Karamveer Education Change Champions Fellowship in April 2019, and we had this whole reservoir of knowledge and crusaders with us, and we thought, why not bring them on here and bring this inspiration here. We should also be joined by our Mojosh inspirator, Geronimo Jerry Almeida, who shall be giving us insights into the conversations that we will be having with our fellows here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So before I start, I'd like to say a few words about Mahabanoo. We all know Mahabanoo. Mahabanoo has been with us since 2011. She's been inspiring all of us and coming on board with all of us since 2011. And I'm going to just say a few words for you, Mahabanoo. People know you very well as a beautiful actor, director, and producer who's been doing some phenomenal, heartbreaking work and inspiring the world through your art, through your cinema, through your theater. So, Mahabanoo, you started your
I can't hear you.
theater, radio, a lot of them, 75 credits to your name in India and abroad. You're also a very, very wonderful social justice advocate, working diligently for the women's rights and in the arenas of women empowerment, uh, bringing, justice to violence against women and all of that. You also are co-founder at Make a Difference Foundation, where you raise funds and awareness to combat violence against women and children in urban schools, colleges, for various strata of society. You've also been chosen as Femina Magazine's one of 50 most powerful women in India. in 2007, and under 200 most inspirational women from around the world by Miss Zenobi Clifford for her book. So I would like to start. So welcome once again, Mahabano. So wonderful to see you, and it was lovely to meet you in 2019 in November in person. But I think these conversations are very very important, and they make sense in the digital time, the times we are sitting in, so that we can keep doing the work that we are doing through virtual mediums. So Mahabano, I'd like to ask you to begin with, how did this journey of uh, geologist and microbiologist, all of that, how did it just shift to theater and art and cinema and all of that?
Well, it started much before the microbiology and geology came about. Uh, I trained with one of the finest teachers till I was 16. Her name was Hima Devi. She was from the drama school in London, and she acted with. She trained with Gielgud and Laurence Olivier, and then I don't know why she came here and she started teaching. She was absolutely brilliant. So when I was 16, she got me a scholarship to a acting school in New York. And of course, my father said, "No good Parsi girl from a good family." I don't know what he'd say now. No good Parsi girl does acting as a profession. So all my hopes were put to rest. And then I did my microbiology chemistry first. I did geology chemistry later on. It was just to pass time because by that time I had met my now estranged husband and wanted to get married. So I was just passing time till we were ready to get married. And after that, I didn't do anything. I went to America for 3 years, almost 3 years, and worked at the Preventive Dentistry Research Institute in Indianapolis. I worked for the chemist who formulated Crest toothpaste. And I was a research assistant there. And it was an experience, not a very pleasant one because we were very hard up for money. My husband was studying and his fees had to be paid. And at that time, the foreign exchange restrictions were terrible. We were not allowed to take exchange out for studies. And he studied with a very brilliant professor. I made some wonderful friends over there with whom I'm still in touch. Then I came back in 1971, 72, and then just faffed around. I worked at my husband's clinic. Uh, and then my son, Kaizad, he went abroad for studies in 1986. And he came back and he was always interested in theater. And he came back with a play called Eden Creek, which was written by his professor, Dr. Dwight Watson. And so he found 5 actors, 5 female actors, and these were monologues again. You know, my life seems to be full of just monologues, mostly. 80% I would say I've done monologues. And at that time, I had had a hysterectomy and I was not well. And he found these 5 actors and couldn't find the 6th one. And he said, "Would you like to give it a try?" And of course I did. I was just dying to do something like that. And that started it. That is how it was about the Great American Depression. And there were 5, 6 women living in the uh, same area in America, but they didn't know each other. And each one had a different role to play in that little community. And that's how my career actually started as an actor on the commercial theatre. But that was not a commercial venture. We had 3,000 rupees given to us by the United States Information Service uh, to put up the play, and we put it up at the USIS at Churchgate. At that time, they didn't have this fancy place at BKC, which looks like a prison now. But we did it over there, and that's how it started.
Yeah, wonderful. So, Bhavana, I'd also like to ask that, you're also one of the first Indian stand-up artist, comedian, and how does humor is a great power, and humor is something very difficult to even address and act and do all of that, and but humor can also be a great power to put across a lot of issues with sarcasm and humor, and you can talk about very serious issues and raise those issues and talk about it. So tell us something about how humor has been one of a beautiful soft weapons to kind of talk about, advocate about issues that you have that are very close to your heart.
Whenever I used to start the stand up act, I always used to tell them that all the stories I'm going to tell you are true, because truth and jokes are not mutually exclusive. The best jokes are true, and the best truths are really jokes. As you know, what is happening in our country today, it's if it weren't so tragic, it would be hilarious. Maybe 20 years down the line, people, and just see how much of humor has come out of this very trying period that we are going through in the last 6 years. Everybody is becoming a poet. Everybody is writing fabulous stand-up comedy, and it's a great. And I always feel that truth should be peppered with a little humor, because then people accept it much better. And that, I think, is one of the main reasons why the vagina monologues is so popular.
Yeah, and we at Rex also think that humor is a great power. It's one of the powers that we talk about in our a lot of work that Jerry has written, and the work that we are doing for school program. Humor is a huge power that should be used to talk about issues that are maybe serious in nature, but lace it with humor to kind of bring home the message to the masses.
Absolutely.
Um, Mahabanoo, tell me that they must. I'm sure when you started with the series of vagina monologue in India, it must have was it a intent that this is how it's going to pan out and that's how you're going to achieve things around it? Are you able to do that? Are you happy about it? How did it go about? And tell us how was it bringing down to India, and also talking about a taboo word, a taboo organ, a taboo, even saying vagina is thought to be something that we don't speak about. We don't talk about our body parts so openly, and bringing that in that time of at that time of uh, era. How was it? Tell us about it.
Well, you see, what happened was Kaizad sent me the book from America to read. It first came out as a book, the
Yes,
play.
yes.
And I read it, and he said, you should do this in India. And I said, are you serious? I don't have a death, a death wish. How can I ever do this in India? Excuse me. And so when I went back to America, and I think it was 2001, he gave me a ticket to go and see the play. And I sat in
Adorable.
the auditorium with 1,500 men and women. I was just blown away. Everybody was laughing, crying, clapping, shouting. It was just the most amazing experience I had. And I said, this we've got to do in India. And so we went to New York. We met Eve Ensler, who now is known as V. We must call her V and not Eve Ensler. So when
Yes.
I say V, I'm referring to her. We met V, and she interviewed us, really grilled us about all our previous work. And really, we had done some extremely exceptional work in India also, because Shirley Valentine, which is a one woman play for 1.5 hours. And
Yes.
that is what really started me on stand up comedy. Because when I used to do it, everybody used to say, why don't you do stand up? This is like a stand up act. But people abroad have $1 million teams writing out. We don't have anybody to write out that kind of stuff. So I would just stand and tell stories, which were very funny. They were funny. And I've done it for every embassy in Delhi. I've done it for the British ambassadors. I've done
Mhm.
it for the politicians in Delhi, and everybody's enjoyed it. Anyway, so then I came back to India, and I said, let's start doing the vagina monologues. And it was amazing, because I feel whenever a thing is done with great purity of purpose, with great integrity, which V's work has been, everything works out. So first I had to get a censor certificate, because Maharashtra was the only backward state, and some others also, that needed a censor certificate for theatre. And I
Yes.
said, this I'm never going to get, you know. So I was at the Taj Palace doing a stand-up comedy for the BBC. They had brought two stand-ups from Britain and two of us from India. And it was just a lovely evening, and one very attractive young Indian girl came up to me and she said, "Oh, Mrs. Court, madam, you know everybody calls everyone madam. What would you like? What is your next project?" And I said, "Well, you know, I have something very exciting, but I don't think I'll ever be able to get through. You know." She said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Well, you know, it's because I have to get through the censors first." And she said, "What is it about?" And I said, "You know, it's called the Vagina Monologues, and it's about awareness towards women, abuse towards women." And she said, "Who said you won't get a certificate?" She said, "I'm on the board of censor, on the censor board, and if you give me the script out of so many, five really very erudite people should read it, and if it passes, then you will have the censor certificate." So I gave her this thing, and you know, within 1 month, I got the censor certificate without a single deletion. Whereas in my previous praise, if the word fuck was there, they would write, "Ye fuck ko nikal dalo." They would call me up. They would say, "Ye fuck word nahi chahiye andar." So, but this one went through totally without any deletions. Then, of course, the problem of trying to find a producer. Well, one producer did come in with whom I had worked previously. And then he was advised by somebody who was a bureaucrat, very good friend even today of mine, who told him कि ये मत करना, ये तो आपका नाम बिल्कुल बॉम्बे सोसाइटी में खत्म हो जाएगा. So this man phoned me up and he said, "You know, uh, yeah, my name will be smudged in amongst Bombay's glitterati." I said, "Darling, you know, Bombay's glitterati is nothing more than Bombay smugglerati. You don't worry." But he walked out. Anyway, he walked out just 2 or 3 weeks before the show was to begin. But before that, I had a problem finding actors. There were girls who wore skirts short enough to exhibit their vaginas who refused to say the V word. They said, "How can we say it?" Somebody told me, "How will I tell my guru that I said the word vagina?" Someone said, "What will my parents say?" And then one day, Kaizad met Dolly Thakur. And you know, I owe a lot of my work to Dolly because she was the first one to send me abroad also for a film and a play. And Kaizad met and she said, "What's your mother going to do now?" And he said, "You know, she's having trouble finding actors." She said, "Oh, I'll do it." Dolly is very, you know, she's the typical bohemian. She has absolutely no inhibitions. She said, "I'll do it." And then she brought in a young girl called Avantika Akerkar, who is brilliant. And Avantika actually wanted to do it in America because she's half American and half Indian. And but I said, "You can't be the producer because I've got the rights to it." And so Avantika came in. And then, but before Avantika, I got this brilliant girl, Jayati Bhatia. Jayati and I had done a series of monologues again for some other director. And Jayati had done a brilliant piece where she had given birth to a child. And she was a Punjabi woman, and how they behave when they're giving birth and what they say. It was a hilarious piece with all the drama going on, you know. And it was just a 7 or 8 minute piece. But she had impressed me so much with her performance. So I phoned her up and I said, "I know you do television. So do you think you'd like to do this?" And she said, "Absolutely, I'll come in." So that way we got four of us. And then a friend of Kaisar who was a doctor, she said, "I just want to come and sit in for the rehearsals. I won't say anything, but please." And normally I don't like anyone sitting in on rehearsals because, you know, everybody has a problem. I say something to an actor and I don't want that going out of the four walls of the rehearsing room. Anyway, she was very quiet and she was so sweet and good. And I said, "Let her do all the introductions." And she graduated from just the introductions of each piece to doing the major pieces also. So that's how we got the whole group ready. And then, of course, everyone told me, Alec Padamsi told me that you better have a good lawyer ready. You know, you can't tell what's going to happen. Have a police car ready outside. And we were so nervous. And I said, "Don't worry, we'll do 5 shows in North Bombay and 5 shows in South Bombay, and then I'll close the show."
So you know, Vagina monologue. Even when it started as a political theater and, you know, humanitarian theater, and it had a worldwide impact. And yes, you know, Eve is known as we, and you know, and all of that, and it talks so much about violence against women and things like that, and it's so relevant. Uh,
Today,
every day, even today, even in COVID times, it's so relevant right now to bring in that awareness and bring in the dialogue, bring in the discourse, and then of course bring in the policy and the laws
Absolutely.
around all of that.
Absolutely.
So you've also been taking vagina monologues to schools and colleges, and I would really want to know your experience and impact, because I think these inhibitions and the taboos and the do's and the don'ts need to be broken down and dealt with, where mindsets to be changed at the school level, at the college level, where children start to kind of talk about things which make us a better society, which shift our mindsets, not from these mindsets where we just keep listening to people around us and we think that's the right thing to do, because we don't know anything other than that. And even today, when we are moving the movements and breaking the shackles and breaking new walls, it's so relevant. Tell me about, because I'm really interested, and uh, I'm going to involve you with our schoolwork and the vagina monologue thing, because it's so relevant and so beautiful. Tell me about your experience about schools and colleges, and
But
how did the children take it?
trustees, the most relevant work has been also done in Dharavi. We opened our little uh, NGO, our own foundation called the Make a Difference Foundation. And I found this wonderful woman in Dharavi, Dr. Armida Fernandez. In fact, I spoke to her today morning, and we have a very wonderful relationship. She's one of the most amazing women ever, ever. And of course, Eve and all, when they came here, Jane Fonda, Marissa Tomei, I took them to the Dharavi Center, and they had started out so small, and today they are huge, absolutely, huge. And I remember, they, I think, wanted me to do the vagina monologues for them, but I think it was not allowed by the St. Andrew's Auditorium. So I did Shirley Valentine for them, totally free. It was my gift to them. And in one evening in those days, in 2000, and even before Eve came here, they made about 10 lakhs because we didn't charge them. And then, of course, St. Andrews even had a problem with Shirley Valentine because that's a very radical play, also, very radical. And so through Armida, I came to know of this, of the foundation called Sneha, and we've been supporting them. So what we did was a few years ago, we clubbed some grants that we had from our foundation and from theirs, and we did 11 or 12 shows totally free for the women of the Bastis. And I tell you, Itu, those were the most fabulous experiences. Those women came there, we used to get them in, you give a little snack. It was like an evening out for them. They'd never seen a play. So it was like
Right.
an evening out. They would come there, they would sit, they would laugh at the right time. Mind you, we underestimate our audiences. And that is one thing I've learned over the years, never to do that. Never underestimate your audience. You give them a great piece of work and they are there with you. And after the shows, we would take their, their opinions and their what they felt, reactions. And some of them allowed us to even tell their stories about abuse and what happens in the bastis, And I'm hoping that one day some good multinational with a heart will give us some money to make a film out of those experiences. After that, after those, there was a police commissioner called Rakesh Maria in Bombay. Wonderful man. And he invited us. Again, it was a totally free show for 1,200 Maharashtrian police women. So
Hmm.
just the police women and
Okay.
a few of their officials, and it was great. I mean, it was just superb. Once that was over, now we have graduated to schools and uh, uh, colleges. Well, actually, one school in Juhu, the R.N. Podar School.
Okay.
So Abnita Beer, who is one of the most fabulous educationists ever, she
Right.
asked us one day, she came and saw the play and she said, "Why don't you do it for my children?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I will not be able to just pick the good parts and not, because the play is really very brutal. Because it doesn't just talk about physical abuse, it talks about mental abuse, emotional abuse, it talks
Yes.
about, pedophilia. It talks about a
So
lot of
many issues, yes, around that.
which are very pertinent and which
Absolutely.
children must and should know.
Yeah.
So we decided, she said, no, I want you to do it entirely the way it is. And I thought, bravo, wonderful. So we did it for her. And we did it separately for the boys and the girls first, so that there
Okay.
wouldn't be any embarrassment or any tittering or. And then for the next 2 days, Kaizad and I had intensive workshops with both the boys and girls together. And
Right.
what came out of those workshops was mind blowing. I mean, you know how parents literally destroy the spirit of these children by saying no and don't. And these are two words one should never use. And I always tell everybody or the children that you must question. You must question even your principal, your teachers. And if you feel that the answers they give you aren't what makes sense to you, don't accept them. But you must be careful what you accept. Research the answer. Do things that really help you evolve.
Yeah.
Don't just sit and live, because all of us, we have ideas that our mothers put in our minds. Their mothers had their grandmothers tell them. So
True.
actually, most of us don't have a single original idea of our own, you know. And I feel that children must be allowed to grow and fulfill whatever they want to do. Like my father, he didn't allow me to do acting. And I missed out, from the age of 16 to when I started, which was about 44.
Yeah.
And that was a major part of my life that was missing.
So Mahabanu, I mean, the vagina monologue has always been one of these theater or plays which is voiced the voice of dissent, talking about things which people didn't talk about, which were hushed down, put under carpets, don't talk about, closed doors around them. And here is this play bringing out so much of issues around women, menstrual health, pedophiles, women violence, so many other issues which are around the play. And do you think the children have a different kind of a role model now? What is it, and who is your role model? Do you have one? And because I know that we celebrate this voice of dissent, we talk about the change, we talk about not just ideas for action, but not just talks, ideas for action at Rex Karamveer. We celebrate the power. We are not we I mean, the crusading that we all do, and that's the reason you are part of the movement, because you brought in such a lot of change in the mindset and the thoughts and the process, the way people thought and looked at even theater, and how theater has this huge power, art has this huge power to change the mindsets. So do you have a role model?
Yes, I think Eve Ensler is my role model, because here was a woman who had undergone the worst kind of abuse from her own father, and how she came out of it, and how she used that negativity into turning out something so beautiful that is really changing the world. I mean, it is amazing. So she is my role model in this, part of my life. She is. But different parts of my life are different role models.
Okay.
I always laugh that if I have not achieved anything, at least I've got thousands of Indians to shout out the word vagina, which we do when we start the play.
Yeah.
I make them say it softly first, then we first whisper it, say it a little louder, and then really shout it out. And I said, if nothing, at least. But this play has really brought about changes in many lives. And I'm not saying it out of sheer. I'll give you two examples. Do we have time?
Yes, yes, we do have about 5 6 minutes. One more question, I have to ask you a very important question.
I know which one that's going to be. Um,
Yes.
No, so this play has really brought, the groups which are where women are genitally mutilated. These women come backstage and tell us, women have come and told us that they've been disowned by their husbands, by their communities, because they wouldn't allow their daughters to be genitally mutilated. Other, gays come, lesbians come, and they tell us all kinds of stories. And one day, I was going to Delhi in the plane to perform, and this girl across the aisle got up and she said, "Can I hug you?" And I said, "Yes, but I just want to know why." Some random person getting up in the middle of the whole plane with so many people watching us. And she took out her mobile phone and she showed me a picture of me standing next to a young man. And I said, "Oh," she said, "this was the happiest day of my life." And I said, "Oh, I'm so delighted, because one of the taglines of the vagina monologues is, if you want to find a good man, go to the vagina monologues." So I said,
Okay.
you found your happiness with this man? Or she said, no. She said, after seeing your play, I decided to walk out of a 3.5 year abusive marriage. So I made him stand next to you to commemorate that moment.
Wow.
And, I said, I don't know whether to feel happy or guilty. Or she said, oh, please don't, because it's been the happiest time of my life after that. So these were changing. And then there was one girl who fainted in the audience, and we thought, she had her pressure had gone down or whatever. And the piece that was going on was where the little girl is raped by the uncle. So when we took her to the green room, we started the play again, removed her from the audience. She told us that, this has brought such a closure to my life because my sister, when she was 10 years old, was raped by my uncle. And I was 17 years old, and I walked in when he was doing that. And my parents said absolutely nothing. And she said, I was so filled with anger. And she said, I just felt that, my God, it's happening to other people too. And it just sort of, you know. And then 6 months later in Delhi, the sister came, the little girl who had been raped, who was now 16 or 18, I don't know, when she came. And she said, you remember the girl who fainted in your play? She said, I am the little girl who was raped. So there are several, I could write a book on these.
Yeah, you must. I think that it's also maybe for some it's catharsis, for some it's learning, for some it's therapies, for some it's closure, and I think it should be kind of, you know, made mandatory for men to see it and women to see it to feel empowered, and men to see, to learn and to shift their mindset.
The thing is, we are so regressed and so repressed in India,
Absolutely.
and everything is
Yeah.
dirty. And people live in little 10 feet rooms with uncles and aunts and brothers, and we see sex happening, and they can't find any release. So then
Yes.
what happens is it all gets into them, and there's this rage building up, this immense rage in people.
I mean, you know, I have a lot of cases like that in my clients in therapy where, you know, girls have even been abused by their fathers, and the mothers have told them, keep quiet, shut down, you don't have to. And mind you, one of my clients, her father was a judge in the,
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, judiciary. He was a high court judge, and I mean, you know, but yes, these topics and these talks need to come out. We need to bring that out. You have a great following, and you know, people listen to your words, Mahabano. I see you having a huge following on social media, and every word you utter, everything you say, people have, you know, have time to listen to it and have a discourse with you over there. And you know, that's the power of, I think everybody should use that power when you have that kind of people who listen to you, and you should make an impact. So but I do see, you know, coming to socio political scenario when we have, so do you think you have, what kind of, you know, do you have soft corner towards Congress party? Do you have anything, you know, what is it like that? Do you think they could have been better? Because I do see a lot of your posts on Congress, on Nehru.
They
I
have
mean,
let
you know,
us
I'm wanting to clear that. What is your take on it? And how, do you think they were better? They would have been better? Or
certainly more
what's it like that?
certainly more learned. Let's put it that way, more sophisticated in their thinking. But in today's scenario, if my car ran for elections, I'd vote for my car. Let me tell you. But no, I don't think you know what I'm saying. Anybody is better than what is going on just now. That's what I'm saying. People say, who is better? It's not a
Hmm.
question of who is better. Who is the least worse? We have
Hmm.
to go there. I mean, today there's a picture of a judge, one of the chief justices, sitting on a big motorbike. He loves motorbikes, which is wonderful. I'm glad that he had. I mean, they say that the motorbike belongs to somebody from the BJP. I don't understand. I'm just totally confused. Totally confused. And I feel that there is very little hope for the next 4 years where we are going. So it's not the Congress, and the Congress, in its turn, has let down the public totally, totally. They are so disorganized. They have no proper control over their own party. And what is the point? They come on social media, they write something, and I always question them and I say, but what are you doing about it? There is no positive step that they are taking to see. Now, I'll tell you one thing. I have got great respect for the Shiv Sena, great respect, because they have changed their image. I think they have realized that the previous image was not doing them any good, you know. But I have asked for help in very many cases when the metro work was going on, and there was a lot of noise. And they would come at 12 in the night and sort of, ask these people to shut work because that was the rule. And I asked him for help when I did a play called Agnes of God, which was about a nun getting pregnant. And the Christian community threatened Kaizad and me with our life. And that was the time I got 150 policemen to stand in the theatre and outside to see that no harm would come to us while performing the play. So I feel
Right.
that, yes, I'm very happy with the way they are handling things. And of course, the center is trying to break them down and run them, whatever it is. I think he's managing
So
that.
you feel that one should use the social media to talk about one's
Absolutely.
my thoughts, changes, and all of that we wanting to bring about, and it does make a difference. It does impact.
And can I say something about social media? A few months last year or a year and a half ago, I got this idea that we all talk. We all talk, but nobody listens to the people who want to talk.
Yeah.
So what I did was I put up a little thing on Facebook and I said, I'm starting something called the empathy group. If you have a story to tell, please come. And if you want to support somebody who has a story to tell, please come. There's absolutely no charges, nothing. We hold it in our house, in my house. And you have no idea. It's a small group because women are still not comfortable with coming out and telling their
Yes.
story.
True. True.
But when they come out and the stories, and some of them have forged such great bonding with each other, and it's such a satisfying experience, really, really satisfying.
So at this note, Mahabano, I'm going to invite Jerry onto here and give his insights and give us his views on the things that we discussed. Are you here, Jerry?
Yes, I am. So brilliant listening to you, Mahabanu, and very happy to know about all your work and your journey right from the time when your father told you that you should not get into acting.
Good girls. So now I'm a
Good
bad,
girls do not get into
now
acting.
I'm a bad girl.
But I think that was the mindset which was prevalent in that era.
Total.
And I think a similar mindset about what girls should do and should not do continues even into the current era.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So that's one mindset that I think one insight which I want to share, that times have changed. We think we have progressed into the so-called 21st century, but mindsets have not changed.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think you know the, that is the basic problem, especially with our country. Our mindsets are not changing because we are more of showbiz, and we like to show that we've become better as a people because we've just become westoxicated and adopted some western practices. But unfortunately what we have adopted is all the pop culture, the dance culture, the fast food,
Which
the
is also not
cheerleaders. We've not adopted the best practices of the West.
yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, you were
Can I
saying something.
Yeah, I was in Chicago about 4 years ago, and there was this
Right,
huge cycle race, right on Lakeshore Drive.
right,
Hundreds of men and women totally naked, totally
right,
riding bicycles,
right.
everybody standing cheering. Nobody was saying, "Oh, look at them," or nobody was judging. Could you do that in our country? Now, that is sophistication to me. When you can look at somebody and not see that they are naked or they are not, dressed in the appropriate way. Whereas here we are always saying, look at this person, she's wearing something so obscene or not good. I don't know why we are very
Right.
judgmental.
Absolutely. I mean, seeing people naked on the streets of Bombay or a Delhi is a far-fetched idea because people would probably die a thousand deaths right there on the spot. But I mean, small things like India can't win all the time. So whether it's the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics or cricket, which is the other pseudo religion of India, you will see that when India is losing, then they start abusing the cricketers. But when India is winning, you put them on a pedestal and make them into demigods and idols, right? I call it idol worship. India can't win all the time. So when we don't know how to lose, how can we really enjoy the entire concept of victory? So I think the small things like that is where the mindset needs to change. And I'm going to start by asking you something about the Me Too movement, which happened some years ago in the US. It started from Hollywood, and then it kind of, traveled to India, where a whole lot of people started screaming Me Too on Facebook and social media, the hashtag. And unfortunately, I have not seen much action taken against the culprits. What are your views on this?
It's disgraceful. The Me Too movement has been uh, totally sidetracked.
Right,
I mean, how many people? I mean, look at the Hollywood people. Those people are in
right,
jail or they are paying fines or they're doing something. Here, there's nothing. Here, there's just nothing because we idol worship, as you said,
right,
Bollywood to such an extent that we feel
right,
they can do no wrong. And if they do
right.
wrong, then so what?
No, it was not just Bollywood. I mean, there is an instance, and I'm going to provoke a little thought on this because it's also happening in corporate India, right? And sexual harassment now, after the entire Nirbhaya case was looked into more closely, and now sexual harassment is a very grave offense. But before 2013, it was still a grave offense, but the laws were a little uh, laid back, I would say, in terms of taking action. So, for example, there's a person called Fanish Murthy, who's a corporate executive, who's a serial offender, and he was for many years in Infosys. And Narayan Murthy, who's hailed as a great leader by many people, did not take any action internally till it blew out in the media,
And
right?
was action taken? I haven't heard of this one.
Action was taken after it was blown out in the media, but Fanish Murthy was doing it for many years internally in Infosys, and nobody, it takes a lot of courage for women to blow the whistle on something like this. But there were murmurs about this in the Infosys corridors, but action was not taken against him because he was the blue-eyed boy who was like, underwriting huge revenues for Infosys. Now, Fanish Murthy then left Infosys after action was taken against him and moved to another organization called iGate, where he again kept offending and the predator that he is. There were many harassment cases against him over there also, but in iGate also they didn't take action against him till it blew out in the media. Now the iGate promoters are being investigated, that why didn't you take action against him? Now, if you see the current scenario with the sexual harassment, the anti-sexual harassment policy, if what had happened in Infosys had happened today, then even Narayan Murthy and the other promoters in Infosys would be in prison, because today the promoters are held liable. But what I'm trying to say is that why do we wait to take action only once it blows out in the media or it becomes a public case? Why aren't we exercising the moral code and taking action against people without it blowing out in the media? Everyone who's there in Bollywood, and include not just Bollywood, but several of these event agencies, I see these people, and I'll name Anirban Blah of Kwan, for example. There was not one case against him. There were multiple cases against him, and yet he's scot free. He even tried to stage manage a suicide. If you remember, this was reported in the newspapers. Complete bunkum humbug. And today Anirban posts gourmet cuisine, um, recipes on Facebook, and the women who should be speaking against him are liking the recipes and saying, "Wow, great recipe!" Right? So one such movie director, I actually confronted her a few days back, and I said, what does it tell me about you when you're still friends with a person like Anirban Blah on Facebook? It reflects on you too. There's another person called Vijay Nair from another agency called Only Much Louder. And Vijay Nair is today the publicity or the publicist, the PR manager for Aam Aadmi Party. And Atishi, who's a part of the Aam Aadmi Party, actually goes on record by saying, I do not know about any of these cases which Mr. Vijay Nair is involved in. Hey, just do a Google search, no? It's not one case. There are multiple cases, which also tells you what Aam Aadmi Party and Atishi is all about then. So which political party is really better? You have schools who invite Jeffrey Archer as the chief guest. Jeffrey Archer has multiple cases of sexual offenses against him. Do you have any insights on this, ma'am?
No, what I feel is, what happens over here is, Jerry. women are so frightened to come out, first of all, and talk about it.
Right.
What happens by the time they come out? It's been 10 years, 5 years. So everybody says, oh, why are they coming out now? And I always explain there are so many hindrances why these women don't come out at the time. It might mean their livelihood, it might mean a sick family member. There can be so many things. And but when they come out, what are we doing about it? Nothing.
Absolutely.
We as women also pull them down. Not me, but I've seen women, oh, she must have really slept around. Okay, so, but she said she didn't want to, and she's giving you instances of how many times this man has taken advantage of her. But
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. That, and that's what happened with one of the actors who had blown the whistle against Nana Patekar. She was more victimized by other actors and female actors from Bollywood rather than standing in support with her.
you see, because everybody sees themselves as the mirror, they see
Right.
themselves in the mirror. So
Right.
many of them cannot afford to speak out, also.
Right.
I'm talking of the men, of course.
Right.
And the women, of course, some of them are so focused that I say, okay, you want to be focused, you want to go ahead and do what you do to reach a certain level. That's their choice, right? I'm not judging them.
Right.
But if you are not, it's not consensual, then I think the severest action should be taken. Severest. I mean, people go into depression, women go into depression because of this. They feel frightened to go to work.
Absolutely. And I think in current times in the lockdown, you must have been reading about this. This is a worldwide phenomena which is happening. Cases of uh, domestic violence have gone up. Marital rape surely is a all-time high, especially in India, and it's not even considered to be a legal crime in India. Of course, there's no such thing as moral crime in India because we don't understand morality at all, right? But marital rape is not considered to be a legal crime at all. I was speaking to somebody today who works in the arena of mental health, and I'm told that a lot of incest is actually happening in families in the lockdown.
Yes.
And earlier you spoke about how daughters and kids and especially girls are told to hush it all up if they are harassed because they've had some kind of harassment case happening by a sibling or by an uncle or by even their own father or something.
You know,
So what is the insight you have about such hypocrisy in a society which prides itself on being god loving and religious minded?
I'm a religious, so I have nothing to say about these people. But I tell you, 93.8% of the rapes that are reported
Right.
are committed by people within the family or within the friend circle.
Absolutely.
This is from the National Crime Report, huh? And,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and who does anything about it? And there are equal number of cases which are not reported. Before the lockdown, 92 women were raped daily. Today it must be, and in America, my daughter just told me that they can't call anybody, the police or anyone, because the man is right there in the house. So what they do is
Right.
they tend to call up a supermarket, and then they order some ridiculous amount, like I want 100 kilos of steak, or so the police then get the idea that this call is coming because this woman is being abused. We don't
Right.
have anything like that. We don't
Right.
have, the women are so frightened. They are so. I'll tell you one thing, Jerry. The women in the Bastis have more guts than women living at Malabar Hill. I promise you that.
Absolutely.
Agree.
I completely agree
Agree.
with you because another fact and figure which astounds many people because they don't want to accept it is that the incidence or the percentage of female feticide is the highest in South Delhi and South Bombay.
Yes. And the highest female feticide is at Malabar Hill again.
Absolutely. And which is one of your most elite localities of Bombay, right?
Another,
Which brings me to the homes are not safe, the schools are not safe because we like inviting all the criminal elements like a Jeffrey Archer or a Salman Khan or a Sanjay Dutt as the chief guest for school functions, or a Ajit Gulabchand, for example, who has so many cases against him. He's also my school alumni, but I will speak against him because how do we tolerate such hypocrisy? I heard you using the word smugglerati earlier. right? Where you said that don't worry because you're not going to lose the confidence of any decent people. You're going to only lose the confidence of smugglerati. At that in that era, you knew who the smugglers were. There were the Dolakyas, there were the Narangs, right? And Haji Mastan and so on. But right now, most of the criminals are the white collar criminals. They are all these people who wear designer suits and move around in the la-di-da of society, smoking their cigars, drinking their single malts like a Donald Trump or any other criminal element who's like whitewashed himself with his PR agency. So how do you
Jerry,
how do you address this?
well, I will give you why this is happening. It is
Right,
because we in India have not had much. As a society, we've not had much. All of a sudden, this money has come in.
right,
Whether it's ill gotten or well gotten, I don't know, and I don't judge anybody. And
right,
I think what is happening is people don't know how to adjust to the level of society that they have reached.
right.
They just don't. I mean, I tell you, there was a little, I believe, a child's party, a children's party for a little girl who was, what, 4 or 5 years old, where I believe 1 crore of rupees was spent. A crore
Right.
of rupees.
So it's all about new money and showing that we are better than you. The entitled lot, as I call them,
Yes,
entitlement being one of the biggest problems of the world, besides apathy.
but Jerry, I think this lockdown is going to bring a lot of people down to earth. It is going to. Because what good is all your jewelry? What good are your, whatever you have? What good is that lying in your cupboard when you can't wear it or show it off if you want to? I don't know.
I
So
had thought I had thought so too, and I'm going to kind of just interject to it because, like you, I was hopeful and wished that the lockdown would teach us all a lesson, but I don't see that happening. I was very surprised when on the first day of unlocking, the elite educated of South Bombay came out to Marine Drive like everything was well. I know Modi says all is well, but what happened to this elite educated of Bombay? Are they really educated or are they just degreed?
I don't think they're even degreed. A lot of them are just standing on their father's or grandfather's shoulder and shooting the gun.
Right?
No, I don't know what it is because it's happening in America also.
Yes, it is. It
It is
is.
happening in America. I don't know why people have lost this sense of well being, not for themselves, but for others also.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't give a shit, what happens to you or to me, and they won't wear their masks. And here I am in my house for 4 months, just staying in the house. And if I
Absolutely.
go out, some idiot who's not wearing a mask might infect me.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's so unfair.
And I remember I posted about this on Facebook that what has happened to these people? Have they lost it all? And there was another friend who was at Starbucks. I didn't know that he was at Starbucks, but I posted like, what are you doing at Starbucks in the lockdown? Enjoying coffee and doing conversations over there on the first day of the unlocking. And he called me offline and said, "Hey, come on, Jerry, you didn't need to pick on me." I said, "I didn't pick on you. I was picking on everybody who's going to Starbucks."
But that was
And
the way, Jerry. I don't think he was sitting at Starbucks. Starbucks doesn't allow sit down. I
whatever they were having a gathering around there, so whatever it was, yeah. So that's what I meant, because and this is what I meant by how mindsets have not changed. I was in Bombay. I was raised in Bombay, and way back in 1995, I remember this happened, and I'll just tell you why I'm talking about this. I was invited by a college around a few years ago to speak about how India and Indians have changed for the better. And I spoke to the students and dean, and I said, I cannot come and talk on this topic because I don't think India or Indians have changed for the better. And he said, what are you trying to say? I said, if you allow me to come in, I will say that India has moved into the next century, but our mindsets are the same, and then I'll explain it. And I explained it with these two examples because 1995 in Bombay, I was in Bandra, stuck in traffic for around 3 hours because there was a 3.5 to 4 kilometer long line, serpentine queue of people standing in line for a McDonald's burger because the first McDonald's had opened in India, right? So that was 1995, and these are the educated elite of Bandra and adjoining suburbs, people who go to work, like you said, to BKC, right? Okay, now that was 1995. around 2010 is when the first Starbucks opened, I think, 2010 or 11. And again, you had serpentine queues waiting in line for a Starbucks coffee. So I said, how do you explain progress? I don't see any progress. The mindsets are the same.
But see, Jerry, that's what I'm saying. We've never had these things. So when we get them, we get so sort of,
A Starbucks coffee?
well, you know, and at McDonald's, a burger. I mean, when I go to America, I don't eat a
Right.
McDonald's.
Now, we are the world's largest democracy by sheer numbers. We can take pride in saying that. The world's greatest democracy is no better, right? In the United States of America, people stand in line for 3 days to 5 days for a stupid iPhone,
And not only that, and I've seen that myself, huh? I've seen that myself.
right?
iPhone came out and I was in a mall and I said, why are all these people, standing? And I get very frightened of crowds
Right.
because crowds can mean anything anywhere. And I was told, no, this is because a new iPhone has been, uh, being distributed here or whatever is being bought.
Right, and that is the so-called world's greatest democracy. At least they would like the world to believe that they're the world's greatest
I don't
democracy.
believe we are a democracy anymore. I'm
Yeah,
talking about me, I don't have a right to talk about that other country, which also
right.
is in a dreadful state. But
Yeah.
do you think we are a democracy? I don't think so.
No, I always say that we are the world's largest hypocrisy, besides being the world's largest democracy, because it shows.
We
It
are full of
shows.
holy men, not holy men, but holy humbugs. I think
Absolutely true.
all holy humbugs.
Absolutely true. And I'm going to conclude with a simple insight. I was watching a nice movie called Motherless Brooklyn last evening on Amazon. You should watch it. It's a nice movie about how the rich builder mafia of New York, actually controls the entire government and the politicians, and how they're trying to get these parks made and the slums eradicated so that they can come up with their fancy clubs. And that role of this ruthless builder is played by Alec Baldwin,
Oh, I love it.
and his brother's role is played by Willem Dafoe, who's another great actor. And there's a scene in the movie where Dafoe educates this guy, where the main character of the movie, which is played by Edward Norton, and he says, "Are you daft? Do you think this is a democracy? This is not a democracy. This is just that the people think it's a democracy while they stand like Hindu cows, waiting for the rich and the powerful to exploit them."
Same here. It's the
Right,
same here.
right.
Absolutely hit the nail on the head.
That's what it is. Whether it's the world's greatest democracy or the largest democracy, that's what has happened. And we are getting manipulated, especially our country, because we are also a society of blind believers, right from whether it's
It sounds,
Christianity or Hinduism or
starts
Islam
with religion.
or Sikhism. We are blind believers.
Jerry, it starts with
And
religion.
you spoke about absolutely. You spoke about, we call people from the Islamic community and the Hindutva brigades as fanatics. But what about all those Christian people who threatened you in Kaizad when you wanted to stage that play?
But I'll tell
So
you one.
fanaticism doesn't stop.
Oh, Jerry, I'll give you
Yeah.
another example. When I wanted to perform the vagina monologues at the Sophia Bhaba, the Sophia auditorium, the college, it is a Christian college, and at St. Andrews, they didn't allow the play the vagina monologues. But the Sophia principal, when Eve Ensler came to India, there were call upon call to get her to address the students. Now, if that is not hypocrisy, what is it? You
It
don't
is.
allow the play to be performed, but you want your children to have the benefit of the woman addressing you. What?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's ridiculous.
And that's the hypocrisy we live with. So I mean, I come from a place called Goa, and I think the girl child issue is the same in Goa, right? uh, we still like our boys. So what happened to all that Bible and good Christian education, where you speak against abortion and things like that? But what when you don't want a girl and you want a boy, you're happy to go and abort. Otherwise, you speak about the anti-abortion laws, right? So I think the hypocrisy cuts across. It's not related to just one religion, whether it's terrorism or any other kind of social concerns and social evils which need to be addressed. I think there are fanatics in every group, and I think we need to be cognizant of that. At the same time, I did listen into your views about the Congress. I am afraid I beg to disagree, because yes, they are educated, and because they are educated, I find them to be more dangerous, because you can't see the wolf in the sheep's clothing. And that's what the Lutyens mafia, as I call them, the Lutyens crony cartel, has done for the many years. And the situation that we are in today as a country called India and as a people called Indians is not just because of the BJP. It's because years and years of dynasty politics, where they've completely messed up the polity. And today, if the BJP does not have checks and balances being exercised against them, is because there's no opposition. And the reason we don't have an opposition is because the Congress has messed us up completely. So, yes, I do agree with one part what you said, that we now have to choose the lesser evil. And the lesser evil currently is anybody but the BJP. So
That's
I
what I
do.
said, that if my car ran for elections, I'd go for my car.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we need to educate people. We need to kind of educate teachers, parents, that, don't do this idol worship. Be careful of who you're calling to schools as a chief guest to address the students, because it all starts from there. If you glorify people who are doing evil and doing wrong as heroes, we are sending out a wrong message to the kids, which means the next generation will be more messed up.
Absolutely. I
Thank you
agree.
so much, Mahabanuji, and thank you, Itu. That
Yeah.
was a great conversation. Learned a lot from all of you, and I hope the insights helped. Thanks, Nishant, for all the back end. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tony,
Thank
has
you
just
so
joined us.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll be
I,
coming again on Wednesday and on Friday. And Mahabano, thank you so much. I would want to leave with a word that bol ki labaz aad hai tere. Speak, because your lips are free, and we must speak. And I think we must teach children
Question.
about
Question.
dissent, about, teach them politics and religion also, because we don't teach them, they don't know the nuances and the science behind religion and philosophy, politics. That's why it's being misused everywhere, and that's why there is this warped thoughts and ideas that all of them have. Thank you so much. I don't think we have time to take questions, but Mahabano, it was very, very enlightening and wonderful talking to you. Thank you, Jerry, for your
Thank
ever
you. Thank
so
you.
wonderful insights, because they kind of shake you and make you listen and sit and think, and that's very, very important, to just kind of think about things that we just take for granted, and do not look at those little things which affect all of us and the generations to come. Thank you so much once again.
All right. Thank you,
Namaste.
Mavanu. Thank
thank
you.
you. Like Jerry would
Thank you.
say, Namaste, thanks a lot.
Namaste and Jai Hind.
It's been a learning experience for me. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay.